when I'm not starting to get very suspicious that mixed nuts really means 95% peanuts and a token cashew every now and then. I like to answer questions and comments that I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Literally explains why noodling aimlessly sometimes works. This comment was on a YouTube short that I posted the other day. Again, YouTube short is just something under a minute that you post in vertical format. YouTube really promotes those, so they like when you do it every now and then. I like doing them, but it's hard because it's hard to really get a whole lesson across in just 60 seconds. So basically the gist of what that was learning 4 notes, D, E, G, A, open 2 on the D string, open 2 on the G string, and then adding them to open chords, right? Like if you have a C major chord, or a G chord, or even like a totally different key like D major. They work in pretty much any open chord thing that you'll ever do because the 4 most common keys, in my opinion, for open guitar chords are the key of C, the key of G, the key of D, and the key of F. Apologies to A and E, but most of the chords that I play singer-songwriter style, I feel gravitate towards those chords or use a capo, and then just having that 4-note spot be something that you can always add to any chord. But I wanted to actually use this as an opportunity to expand on that, because again, you can only teach so much in 60 seconds, right? So the whole idea is we got these 4 notes that you'll see popping up across different keys that are always going to sound good to kind of complement your playing, right? Like I said, I just had that C chord, and then my middle finger is already in a position to jump back and forth. So even just with the C major chord and all the keys that a C major chord exists in, right? In like the key of C, or the key of G, or the key of F, you can always just kind of, and it sounds great. In any chord in that key, right? So like another chord in the key of C major would be D minor. And then kind of having that spot to jump around to can be really, really fun and just kind of take chord melody in directions that you never would have maybe thought about it if you were just thinking of like playing a chord. Like for like a D minor chord with your middle finger on the 2nd fret. Like that's a totally interesting chord that has such a vibe that isn't out of key. It doesn't sound bad, but does it sound right? Does it sound predictable? So that's just something that, you know, you can maybe find just by messing around with those 4 notes. The next step from there is to find these notes in a different spot on the neck. So I was talking about the B string and the E string, 3 to 5, 3 to 5, okay? D, E, G, A, D, E, G, A. Okay, we're gonna expand on this in just a second, but in that same example where I have a C major chord, maybe I can kind of inflect that chord by maybe getting into something like that. And then maybe I want to jump into like a solo, like a minor pentatonic thing. It just really slides you into, you know, a tried and true player's position, okay? So the really important thing to take from this is how these are connected, because then you can use this for absolutely any key. We have open 2, open 2. And then if you think about, all right, well, I'm just going to slide diagonal and do the same thing. Right? And then you can move this all over the place. So we're going to talk about how this really can help you with the entire fretboard. After I stop to tell you that this video is sponsored by Elixir Strings, the absolute best strings in the business. Rocking the Taylor 816 today. Comes stocked with Elixir Strings, but I have changed them. I like the phosphor bronze ones, but again, these are the best strings in the business. If you know, you know. If you've never tried them, you need to try them. But buyer beware, you'll never play other strings again. Promise you. I've been rocking these for a long time. I think the 25th anniversary came out. So definitely click the link below. Show Elixir some love because they've been a huge supporter of my channel. And I legit love their strings, right? So if we're talking about how we can expand this, let's actually take something really, really simple, just like a power chord, and talk about the same exact concept that we can use over pretty much any single chord or any single type of music that you'll ever encounter, okay? So right now we've just focused on the D, G, B, and E strings, right? How we start here and then go here. But the interesting thing about this is like, all right, well, let's just take a A power chord. It's not major, it's not minor, it's just a power chord, okay? And that's the beautiful thing about taking 4 notes from essentially a scale, a root note. You can calls this major second, a whole note away. It's perfect fourth and it's perfect fifth. I'm getting the names of those intervals, right, from its scale. So if I play the A major scale, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5. If I'm playing the A minor scale, it's still 1, 2, 4, 5. So this is really, really handy for anything that you'll ever encounter, okay? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start out with this A power chord, and then I'm gonna take that same kind of 4-note little riff, whatever you want to call it, mini scale, even less than pentatonic, quadratonic, the quadratonic scale. And I do that, and then if I go straight down, there's the octave of where I started. So these notes are A, B, D, E, okay? Now if I start with the next A, it would be right here. And then I do that same shape again. A, B, D, E, A, B, D, E. And then now once we get into this spot, it's exactly the same as our first example where it's open 2, diagonal to get to your octave and the next 4 notes in that sequence. So we've got A, B, D, E. That's gonna take us into A, B, D, E. And then again, diagonal right here is where you get to the next A, B, D, E. So it's really a very easy way to kind of start playing through the neck, right? And especially when you start in the lower register, because you're going pointer finger, and then if you use your ring finger, your pinky, or your middle finger, doesn't really matter. You can just break down into the octave of that first note, and then slide into that next position, and then slide into that next position, right? So now you have this whole new world that's opened up of different like riffs, different fills and stuff that you can do between chords over any power chord. It's not major, it's not minor. You could make the case it's a little more major than minor because that's technically a major second interval. But also I think that sounds, you know, kind of cool as just like a cascade of notes, not necessarily major or minor. And you can play them in between chords. A power chord. That's just in that one vein. And I'm kind of just using it as a fill. To the next chord. And I'm really just taking this from that same pattern and I'm branching off of just a root note, right? Doesn't have to be major, doesn't have to be minor. Like I said, it almost works over any little, you know, chord that you want to do it over. Now, if you do want to talk about modes and stuff like that, there are certain modes that do not have a perfect fifth interval, like Locrian or something like that, or a major second interval, right? Phrygian would be the one that comes to mind. I don't think that's something you really ever have to think about. I'm sorry, mode people. It's just, you know, here's the thing. People who really think about the modes like that, like if you're playing something like in A major, right? And then you get to like a C sharp minor, and then you play that whatever D sharp, and it's like, that's what, the Phrygian mode? That shouldn't that be a D natural? Those are the kind of people that just ruin a bag of mixed nuts. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're all just, you know, some people would say that we're all just peanuts. Just kind of just in a bag. Every now and then you get that weird macadamia nut guy and you're like, you know what? I just would have rather this had just been a honey roasted salt packet. We didn't need a macadamia nut here. But again, those are the modes, the macadamia nuts out there. No offense. In fact, macadamia nut milk is my favorite nut milk. So no offense to the mode people. I'm just saying, for the masses, this is like a really cool kind of thing to, you know, branch off from a root note instead of having to be like, all right, I'm playing this chord. Where am I? What scale degree is this G major? Am I in the key of C? Is this the 5? Do I use the mixed Lydian? Or is this Lydian? Do I have that sharp 4 or whatever? It's like, no, just be like, all right, here's a chord. That's all I need to know. Here's a chord. I don't even need to know if it's major or minor. It could just be a power chord. Then from there, you can kind of have this cool little, you know, riff thing that you can do that will lead you into other positions, whether it be minor pentatonic positions, like I showed as an example earlier. This is kind of like just fun to like, you know, rip through. Or it could lead you into more advanced arpeggio stuff, because at the end of the day, this is kind of similar to how an arpeggio run would work. When I say an arpeggio run, like G major, something like that. But it's something to think about, because I think it's a much easier way to digest and handle single notes, whether it's accompanying your chords or branching off into some kind of lead thing, because it's a way to always know where you are and never get lost. This guy has one of the most obnoxious personalities that I've ever encountered. Let the poor girl speak! This is a great salty comment. This comment was actually not on one of my videos. So at NAMM, I got the pleasure of meeting Mimi Sounds, who has an absolutely awesome guitar channel that is wildly huge, has a huge viewership, right? And a viewership that is somewhat different from mine, if we're being honest. And one of her videos had this thumbnail, and it was like, oh, exploring like West Hollywood. And the great thing about this is you click on that video and it's just like 5 minutes of just me speaking uninterrupted riffing on West Hollywood. So the idea of like a bunch of simps clicking on that video and then just being treated to like the full Sean Daniel experience talking uninterrupted brings me no end of joy. And comments like this are really what make it all worth it. Patreon question. It's a bit vague to me what your Patreon might include. Could you make a YouTube specifically about it, please? Great question. So I have a Patreon. I do a terrible job promoting my Patreon. One of the reasons why is because it's like I feel when it first came out, I thought it was kind of like a charity thing for creators. And I was like, I don't know. But then pandemic hit and I had a bunch of extra time on my hand. So I wanted to make my Patreon like something that is actually just really, really worth it. So if you do look at my Patreon, there are hundreds of lessons, okay? As you know, that I don't usually teach songs on my channel for like a lot of different reasons. But I do think that songs are like a really, really important kind of way to learn music. So I taught our entire set list, me and Andrea's set list, on the Patreon. So I have like 66 like song lessons on there that go into just how to play the song, how I play the song, not exactly how officially to play the song, but how we play it live, in case you are trying to expand your repertoire. But more importantly than that, one question that I would get on YouTube all the time is like, what order should I watch your videos in? And the thing about YouTube is that, you know, it's really kind of single serving content for the most part. Sequential ordered videos don't do that well. And I've tried this because I tried to do like a series on the modes, and it's like, yeah, episode 1 did great. But anytime you call it episode 2, the viewership and the interest wanes, you know, like a staircase down and down. So the thing about the Patreon is it's also got like about 60, like your first 60 guitar lessons. Okay, so it is in sequential order, taking you from absolute beginner to intermediate, advanced, whatever I am, you know what I mean? And I do try to add to it all the time. Plus, there's also bonus lessons. There's some guided practice ones on there, and just extra stuff if, you know, I just feel like I'm throwing it up there. So definitely check out the Patreon. $12 a month. It's actually cheaper than that if you do the whole year at a time. But I really wanted to make it so you could cancel it like anytime. I wanted to switch away from selling courses. Every YouTuber sells courses and stuff like that. I just wanted people, if they are interested in learning from me, which I'm super grateful for, to be able to stop it whenever. So if you just want to pay $12 and just grind for the month and get everything out of it, I feel like that's a pretty exceptional deal to have like all that stuff. Basically everything that I know on guitar taught in order. And again, it took me a long time to kind of get those videos up there. So that's essentially what the Patreon is. And again, I am, you know, if you guys have requests for certain songs that you'd want me to teach in my style, I'm always open to that too. So I appreciate anybody considering the Patreon, and thank you for checking it out. Listening homework, I'm going to talk about The Smile, the new Radiohead album. Again, I've talked about this on the channel before. I don't know if it was in a QA or live stream or whatever, but so Radiohead, my favorite band of all time. Tom York and Johnny Greenwood, I would say, are the two most influential members of Radiohead. Over pandemic, they wanted to make music. They couldn't get the whole band together, but they decided to just make some music under a different name with just them and a drummer and their OG producer, Nigel Godrich. And it's the best Radiohead album that's come out in over a decade, okay? I know it's called The Smile. Radiohead fanboys and whatever OG people will be like, this isn't actually Radiohead, it's a different band. It's a Radiohead album, guys, and it's amazing, and you should listen to it. So do that, get yourself some Elixir strings, sign up for my Patreon, and you're going to have a good month, I promise you. And again, so thank you to Elixir, thank you to Taylor for the guitar. Any questions or comments, hit me in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks a lot.